What's up, nerds? Doc Brass here, and we're here for another tutorial. And this one, before we get into some more advanced stuff for the part 2 of the other video we posted, I wanted to go over something that had become a little bit of a dialogue in some of the groups that I've seen, which is, taking care of your hands so that you can perform for longer periods of time more comfortably, or be able to just perform more advanced measures without stressing your fingers, good practices, etc. And I thought this would be a good chance to talk about ergonomics in general, as well as allowing your fingers to be in proper positioning and assisting each other to perform measures, right? So to kind of get started on how we want to do this, of course, so I have the program loaded from the last video. Kick, snare, hat, open hi-hat, right? We got tambos, go, snare, trash, ride. And what I really want to discuss here is positioning number 1. So as I've said before, thumbs are the most important. Essentially, everyone should, in my humble opinion, have a position where if you take your hands, you create a triangle, right? And you have your right hand here, left hand here, right? Now, that doesn't mean that in general you can't sometimes have things over here, but when you get into a certain position for certain modes, as I'll call them, you want to make sure that this is a very comfortable practice. And the reason why we have our fingers here is because when you are able to use your thumbs for your hi-hats, then you look at where our fingers are over here. We get to touch all of our samples as we need to, right? And that's important when you're trying to keep yourselves, from stretching too far. For our other finger drumming comrades who are used to using their fingers down here, anytime they want to go up and perform samples, they have to then move up, right? So that becomes more of a stress of having to move, right? That's an arm stress, wrist stress, and of course you're only working out 2 fingers and you're putting a lot of damage and focus on a couple of fingers as opposed to using your whole hand rested easy over top and allowing yourself to have access, right? Now, of course, since, I like to use additional cymbals, being able to go your back and forth right here, this is going to be a lot easier to do, right, than trying to have this in another position and doing that, right? Even if you would have to move this cymbal over here, you would have to change up your positioning to accommodate a 2-finger style performance in that way. So that's why the ergonomics of this is important, right? Now, getting into assisting, because this is going to be the real importance of why we're talking about ergonomics. When you have your hands over top here, okay, even in this side, you see how right here sideways I have my thumb on my hi-hat, and then I can still have my pinkies on my samples. I can have my pointer finger on the kick, right? Now, granted, I do have particularly large hands, right? So if you have smaller hands, you might not be able to reach this entire setup over here, but the idea being that you can assist yourself, okay? What I'm about to do is use the similar beat to what I did in the last video, but showing you a focus on how I'm able to do the triplets with the kick by really only doing a double tap with my left hand, but you bringing in my right hand to assist with that third hit. So instead of putting so much stress on trying to have one hand do 3 hits, I then just make it easier. It makes it easier to time the music and make sure that everything's in time. It makes sure that I do not miss any hi-hat notes by making sure that I'm staying consistent. And then it also makes it easier on my left hand for trying to perform more advanced measures, right? So take a look at how we're going to be doing this. Okay, so going slow to fast there, you can kind of see how when I want to, what I'm doing is, actually it's a 4 hit, right? Not even 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and so by bringing in my pointer finger here to hit that kick, I'm maintaining the hi-hat pattern, which is important because this hi-hat pattern is actually in 3s, right? So we're playing the hi-hat in 3s on this beat while playing the tambourine in a quarter note, right? So the timing is important. And so when it comes down to how you maintain that timing, if I'm not bringing my thumb over here, the chances of me actually missing a hi-hat note is that much higher. And that's important, right? We don't want to be missing that kind of stuff if we can, because like a drummer in a band, we need to be on point with our notes, right? And that's the goal here and the intention. And so especially when we start adding in things like the tambourine, where we're starting to do the double hit. Look how much stress that is on your pointer finger. If you were to try and think about that for a second philosophically, if you're going to build up finger strength, is it good to maybe practice that where you're just kind of smashing pads in time with one finger? Sure. It'll help you get faster and stuff like that, but you're also doing a lot of damage, and you don't want to do too much of that if you're having struggles with, RSI or, any kind of joint pain, right? Which, if you can't tell by my lanky fingers, is something that I certainly have to deal with, right? But now assisting, it comes in multiple formats. So it doesn't just come from the right hand onto the left. It'll also come from the left hand onto the right. And an example here would be like if I were to play the trash or the ride for a... So playing that on its own, actually, I need to think about, because you're having two separate rhythms with two different digits, right? 1, 2, 3, right? Oof, yeah, it's even hard to even think about. So the reason why this then becomes easier is by bringing in my pointer finger over here. Not only do I get to maintain the kick rhythms, I also get to maintain the hi-hat rhythms, and then without actually putting in any stress, I'm not doing any extra work on this joint, I'm going to be able to perform the same exact thing. So watch how my pointer finger is going to come in, and by using my my thumb for my kick and snare, again, keeping this triangle shape, I'll be able to do the same exact pattern without doing any extra work. Right, so you see, actually, let me do that a little bit slower. So keep in mind what my right hand is doing. If it sounds complicated, that's the hilarious part about it. It's really not, especially for my right hand, right? My right hand is actually only doing this. I'm only going on eighth notes here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Open hi-hat, right? And it's the left hand coming in that's making up for everything else. So what do you think this opens up these digits to main control over, right? Since my right hand is not being stressed with either a particularly tough muscle memory or me having to think about it, now I can leave these hands open for hitting our samples, right? And then I can leave the easy additions into here with my left hand. So again, I'll go through it again, but I'll even switch it up to the trash because I use that very often in one of my other songs that I like to play. So I hope now we see the importance of having a proper form in ergonomic fashion here. Being able to pull in your fingers to these sides to be able to bring in extra notes without overcomplicating yourself is great, because essentially the left hand is only doing single or basic, double notes, right? Like that. And meanwhile, this is just doing our eighth notes over here. And when you combine the two, it now becomes a complex measure. And then you can start experimenting. Bring over, you can actually do some pretty crazy fills here. So I'll actually just like let loose. I won't even think about anything. It'll kind of just be like gospel chop style. You know what I mean? Just kind of smashing away. But you'll see that all I'm doing is just letting my right hand and my left hand reach over to each other to allow myself to do just some, what would sound like some crazy complex fills, but all I'm doing is combining my hands together, and is making my fingers work less. It's also making my wrists stay at a normal level. I just twist. Try and keep my wrists straight whenever possible. And these are all going to keep your fingers healthier and performing longer for longer sets. Right? You can get more comfortable performing for longer periods of time. That it'll allow you to actually do more complex measures easier. So then you can start to get more creative. So let's get into some gospel chops. All right, there's the fun stuff. So now, granted, because I do a lot of these tutorials in one take, I apologize for any mess ups that are in there. But again, the core purpose there was to show that you can just go back and forth and smashing, bop, bop, like. Same thing back and forth, bringing these guys in here, bringing the finger down here to the kick. And because you're using your right hand to, do this kind of stuff, it keeps these fingers up here because you're using your thumbs. And then because you have your left hand available to make up all the extra space, right? It's at this point where I start to feel like there's just so many options that you can explore. It almost becomes intimidating. So the best, my great starting points would be just start by adding simple notes. Start by adding an extra hi-hat in your eighth notes so that you have a little bit more swing. Start by adding some extra kicks and snares so that you feel like you're, creating some more complex rudiments. Feel like adding a little extra shaker, right? Instead of doing a trash and a ride, do a shaker and a tambo. There are so many things that you can start to explore at this point. That I just want you guys to remember to keep your hands healthy, stretch, right? Stretch your hands, soak them in hot water. I actually even got some compression gloves, so like that they just kind of help relax the muscles. All these things will help keep you playing for extended periods of time. Trust me, after performing for an hour straight of some of these songs that I perform in some of these measures, my hands get very tired, okay? So stay positive, stay humble, and most importantly, stay nerdy out there, everybody.